Oh, hey, how are you? Yeah, I want to do like old 90s, 80s thing. Anyway, I want to talk about my work today. I did this series called Stepping Out of My Comfort Zone. I did 10 paintings of one piece. Sorry, not one piece. One person, same photograph, 10 different times. You saw one of them already. Hopefully you saw one of them. If you haven't saw one of them, it was one where I was painting the piece, and then I hammered it and destroyed it, and I burned it. That was the last one. So now I want to talk about the other 9. But today I'll specifically be talking about 4 because the other 5 have been sold, and of course one of them has been burnt to a crisp. And how it came about, how did stepping out of my comfort zone come about? When I started painting my new style, people were really interested in my work. And for a split second, I was like, I have to keep the interest going. What can I do to make people like my work even more? And I was like, wait, that's not why I paint. That's the other half of the second. I was like, I don't paint so people can like my work. I paint for basically the glory of God. I'm painting because I wanted to see God in my work. Cause it was. What's the word I'm looking for? Not praise, but worship. Yeah, worship. It was a worship. It was a form of painting. Was a form of worship. At this time, I had stepped out of my depression, because the works I did before this work, I was really depressed, and I started to come out of my depression. And so these were works where I was like in the beginning of the healing process of depression. So I want to talk about each one of them and the steps that I took, one step out of my comfort zone, just one step. And it's amazing how one step could change everything, because that one step builds on another step and builds on another step and builds on another step, and there you're like this, you've walked away from pain and into healing. And so we'll talk about this work. So this work, I believe this is number 9 actually. We're starting from last, I guess. This is number 9. And so this work, it's a little different. So here you can see the comfort for me, stepping out of my comfort here, was like the straight lines. I don't know if you can see the straight lines here, and then the painting going across those lines. So before, I used to just go for it, and if you get close enough, and when you see it in person, you'd be able to see where I taped it off. You can see a little paint build up where the tape was. And so a lot of graphic designers like this work because of the straight lines, straight up and down, left and right. All right, yeah, follow me to the next piece. So the model, his name is Earl Buck. That's his real name. Yeah, that's his real name. It sounds made up, but it's not made up. Earl Buck, that's what we call him. We don't call him Earl. We're like, hey, what's up, Earl Buck? It's one of those names where you have to say first and last name. But anyway, so here's another one of my pieces. This is actually number 8. So that was 9, that was 8. The one when I destroyed it was number 10. This is number 8. And so this is when I started to use more of the drips. So you can see the drips going in multiple directions. Before, the drips went in like maybe 1 or 2 directions. Here, it's like multiple. And for me, that was stepping out of my comfort zone, doing something different. And in each one of the drips, I let gravity make the mark. So I put the paint down and then just pick up the canvas and just let it drip. Also, it's on wood, just like the other one. This is on wood. This took probably the longest because I had to like paint, let it dry, paint, let it dry, do the drips, let it dry, do the drips, and then let it dry. A lot of wait time. So as far as time is concerned, this was the longest. Let's go to the next one. Alright, so this piece is stepping out of my comfort zone. I believe it's number 4, if I recall. So this one, where I stepped out of my comfort zone, where I was painting in a circular. Every stroke is either painting around or painting across. It was very physically difficult to do that because I had never painted in a direction like that before. And then also for painting, I've been painting for a long time where like painting a form. And so here I was just painting in one direction. So every time I kept reverting back to trying to change it back and trying to be paint in the form, like painting around the nose or the eye, give it some form. And so it just reminded me, like, no matter, got your bug, it just reminded me that just because you've been doing something for a long time doesn't mean things can't change. Like you can't change yourself. It's like, I got another piece that's called "It's Never Too Late to Change." You know, it's too late if you're dead, obviously, and, but that's a different story. So with this piece, stepping out of my comfort zone, like going in these areas, and I noticed there's a lot of mistakes. I'm looking at it, there's a lot of mistakes I want to go back and fix, but I'm not going to. And there's some places where I did make mistakes, and I did fix. Like, for example, up here, there was this. I felt like I should distort it like these other pieces that I did before, and I was like, it felt too forced. And I was like, it didn't really feel right. So I decided just to, I don't like that. It doesn't work. So I went back. You can tell, like, it's a little darker here. So some of the distortion I did that didn't really work for this piece. I went back and changed it. And then there's a couple of flaws in there, here and there. For example, like the lips are off. Like this little crest here should actually be right there. Should change it just a little bit, but I decided I'm gonna leave it because that's just part of the process. It's not only letting go and do something uncomfortable, but letting go, let the flaws be shown. Most people don't see it anyway, so. But yeah, I think that's it about this piece. Let's take a look at the other piece. Once. Use a pillow and wipe my. Alright, so this one, I'm trying to. What was this? 6. Yeah, I think this might have been 6. 6. Yeah, so this was actually stepping out of my comfort zone number 6. So this is actually 5, and this is 6. So this one's also on wood. And so this is the first time I actually took sandpaper to this piece. So here, and here. And so I put sandpaper and went back on top. And then also another thing I did, another stepping step. Another step that I took is I wanted to use the background. I wanted to have a bright color, but here I used a neutralized red, not as intense, because I usually have either a simple neutral color, brown, white, or like a cool color, blues, that type of thing. So, but I want to use red, this one, and also the previous one. And so, follow me. And so, the whole series was basically about letting go, not staying focused on what I already know. I wanted to change. I wanted to grow, and that's what God was showing me. Like, as I came out of depression, because these pieces were like post-depression, like just like probably like a couple of months after God healed me of depression. Like, when you're depressed, you want to stay in those grooves and you want to keep doing the same thing physically and think mentally, but I had to make a decision to change, and through the Holy Spirit and through people in my life, like my friends and my mom and my sister and like my dad and like just a lot of friends were helping me move out of having that depressive mentality, doing those things that I did as I was in depression. And so sort of like with this piece and actually every piece, where it's like I made a decision to do something different than I did before. And so, and it's hard. It wasn't fun. It didn't feel good, but it ended up being good. And so that's one thing that God showed me throughout these pieces is like, just because there's discomfort doesn't mean it's wrong. Not only that, you become stronger from the discomfort and the pressure and the stress, and you just become wiser and stronger. And throughout it, I became closer to God. And I think that's it. Thank you very much. There's other pieces. Actually, there's 5 other pieces I want to talk about that are connected to this. So hopefully, I'm gonna get in contact with these other people because those pieces are actually sold. So there'll be more about these pieces. But until then, thank you very much. All right, and I'll walk off into the sunset, and that's it.